So as Lawrence indicated, I will tell you a bit of Jetstream, and I would want to weave it into the overall presentation so that it serves as a case study when I'm making a point. I'm also very much delighted to learn most of you are really the young guys and really fresh out of school even. It's indeed an honor because looking back a couple of years ago, I did not have this opportunity. So seeing the young ones gathered here today tells me that indeed this is the answer to the future of supply chain, logistics, and the entire blue economy as a whole. So good job to the Gulf of Guinea Maritime Institutes. You're doing a yeoman's job. To you and the rest of the team, parents. Wonderful. So today we would want to look at the fundamentals of starting a blue business from the idea to a sustainable business solution. I would want to rephrase and say that I want to give you this presentation from the businessman's perspective. So I want to communicate with you in a very relaxed way, in a very informal way. So if you have any questions, just shoot them in the chat box. And when it's due for the session, I'd actually love to hear your voice so that we can have a meaningful interaction. Okay, so I would want to draw the outline of the entire 40 minutes prior to the question time. I'll spend 3 minutes telling you of my personal journey. Then we dive into the crux of the presentation, which is to tell you about 4 keys to move from the idea stage to the business. And then I'll share with you some resources and recommended reading lists. I'll actually blend the resources together with the presentation so that we are able to see the relevance upfront. The Gulf of Guinea Maritime Institute has 4 key learnings and 4 key goals. The first one is to understand the key aspects of how to develop an idea. We'll also go into the second one, which is to follow the steps on how to progress from the idea stage into a solution that sells, so into one that is commercial. That'll be the second key learning point for today. It will also be worthwhile to understand the importance of research and market entry. How does it all begin? What are the first steps you need to take to set the ball rolling? And the last one would be to identify and welcome the challenges that would crop up in this process. So I'll tell you my personal journey, and it's a very funny one, but this is just to break the ice. The first point is that I do not have any formal training when it comes to the blue economy. So in the university, as Lauren said, I studied economics, and for my master's training, I also followed through with economics. With my experience, it's all been on the job learning. The interesting thing is, I presently do not have the desire to study something supply chain, freight forwarding, or marine related. And this is my personal bias. So as I said, I'm speaking to you from the businessman's perspective to give you the raw truths. One of it will also be to give you some thought-provoking pointers, and I'll welcome any debates or varied opinions as such. So please don't take whatever I tell you on face value. Feel free to challenge them and ask questions. So how did I get into this industry if I'm in it and I don't want to take further studies? I actually stumbled upon it by accident because it was a Sunday afternoon. I was walking in town and I saw a truck pass by, and the truck had a container with the logo or the description Maersk. I was curious and I went onto the website. I saw there were some job openings for entry-level position. And this was at the point in time when I finished my national service. So I followed through with the application process, and that was how I found myself in the industry. What I can tell you is that I actually love it because while I didn't know of it previously, I had a desire to be with an international organization. And also because during my economics training, one of my favorite courses was international economics. So it made a lot of sense for me to be in the shipping, the ports, and the maritime. So it's purely passion for me, although I came across it by accident. One of my observations so far is that most of the top executives in the space also do not have any formal or academic training when you talk of the blue economy. People come in with all sorts of backgrounds: civil engineering, electrical engineering. I've seen biochemists. So my first export manager was actually a biochemist person. He was also in tech. My import manager was a civil engineer. And it happened that the crop of leaders I met at that time came in from varied backgrounds. What it actually means is that as a student in the blue economy, you definitely have a unique advantage. And that is what I really want to see in the next couple of years to be Africa's solution to the world's response to the changing blue economy, be it supply chain, freight forwarding, and any other related industry. This very morning, I woke up whilst looking at my news feed. There was a company called Go Freight. The CEO is Trent Shen, and they raised 228 million US dollars for their business. Go Freight is actually a startup, an idea they conceived. And again, he is even a civil engineer with zero experience when it comes to formal training in the blue economy. Same for Ryan Peterson, who has raised over 200 million US dollars for his freight forwarding company in the US. As we progress, I would want to give a lot of examples regardless of geography. So I'll be giving examples worldwide, in the US, in South Africa, just to make it more relatable and give you the international scope. So that's one thing I want you to note. All right, so I just have this funny picture here because I realize we are all young and very youthful. This is a picture that you often see on social media whenever there's a trending issue. And it's of a young man who is reading a book. In this case, he's reading a book, How to Drive Your Car Without Fuel. Just to say that the present increments in fuel worldwide is getting him to think. There's also another scope to it. That's when you go on the internet, any question that you're interested in finding a solution, when you put in your preferred search engine, be it Google or any other means, you will have a ton of information. And this session is no exclusion. When you put into your search engine, be it Google, how do you build a business from an idea stage, you will have a ton of information. So there is lots that is available to us to digest. I would quickly not reinvent the wheel. I'll share with you some very popular nuggets. And on top of it, I would put or share my personal experience to add more weight to it. So just to let you know the scope of what we'll be doing. Great. I hope we are together. If I happen to be moving fast, kindly drop a chat and give me a prompt. So from the keys that have been outlined for us, kind courtesy this wonderful institution, the first one is how to develop an idea. Definitely, you will agree with me that we are not in a vacuum. We relate with each other. And you will agree that your mind processes lots of data. So to say you don't have an idea would really be a tough sell. Nevertheless, how would you find an idea worthy of wanting to pursue business-wise? And you'd realize that it's all around you. It's all around us. Observation is really key. And in my case, prior to Jetstream, I'd worked in the logistics and freight forwarding, Damco, Maersk, and there were so many challenges that were around me. It was out of these observations that I took notice and I was able to build on. So the first thing you would really want to take good cognizance is the fact that an idea is just around you. You only need to pay attention to it. The other aspect would be that because everything is relational, you would need to simply socialize outside your normal circles. The kind of people you speak with, you brainstorm with, you chat with, they don't have to be your everyday people who you see face to face. These can be groups you even follow on social media or some professional platforms, commonly like LinkedIn, where several discussions are being held and you can be contributing to as well. What paid off for me when I was co-founding Jetstream was my partner was introduced to me by a mutual friend who I met randomly on the streets of Accra and asked me to be a speaker in a logistics event, just as we have now. Post the events, we got connected and we're talking about challenges and problems And before you know it, boom, we found a melting point that we believed the idea could move into the business stage. So a simple thing as socializing beyond your normal circles, even in the academic point of view, is key to developing an idea worthy of a business. The third one is to read more books. Challenge yourself, read more books, push your formal training. And I'll share at a later stage some business books that would be of help. The fourth one would be to keep a regular journal. Writing down your ideas is key. You can also have it digitally. I now use Google Keep. So when I move across devices, I have my notes always available. So it could just be a one-line point, something you've seen, a problem you've observed. Once it's written, you stand a greater chance of going back to it, revisiting it, and growing from one line into something big. So when it comes to developing an idea, these are the four broad ones I would want to quickly share with you. To refine the idea, I'll introduce a tool that is known as a business model canvas. The business model canvas, as you see projected, is a one-page document in different sections that highlights certain key questions that when you're able to provide immediate answers to, gives validation to your idea. We'll move on to the second key on this journey. And here I will share with you 7 steps on how to transition the idea into a viable solution. As simple as it may sound, you just need to solve a problem. And so you just need to find out what pain points they are, how they can be addressed. In that journey, you are transitioning from the idea into what is going to be viable and by extension, sustainable over time. Every company addresses a core problem. They eliminate a challenge, they eliminate frustration, they eliminate a lengthy bureaucratic process to achieving a task. And any idea that you come up with in business-wise needs to address this core issue. So that is one of the things that you need to keep in mind. I'll move faster over this. Can't see what I showed to you about the gentleman reading the book. A ton of information is available online. One of the critical observations you would realize is that the business isn't arrived at by just one person, by just one head. You need to find a good, successful team or a partner to work it out with. People are scared of sharing their ideas. One solution is to prepare an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, so that once you exchange information with regard to your idea and potential business with, it is safeguarded and no one can steal it. How do you find the right business partner when you have an idea? And there's a tool that is available. This is called a co-founder matchmaking tool. It brings together people who have similar interests and ideas. And this is provided for by the Y Combinator. The Y Combinator is an international accelerator program headquartered in the US that helps groom businesses from the idea stage. So this is a free tool that you can always have access to, and whatever idea you have in the blue space, it can be very technical. Trust me, it has the potential of finding you the right person. If it's in the technological space, you can have people with similar interests who have that know-how, and together with your idea, you have a good pairing. So this website is available. I will share the slides with your organizers, and you can always visit it when you are trying to find support by having the right business partner or co-founder. The third step to take into consideration is to identify your markets. There are certain ideas which are restricted in certain geographies. And you realize that once you're able to carve a niche for yourself, you would have a business. It can be as simple as that. So there are times that you realize One of the areas that has seen a massive explosion has been with the fintech, the financial technology space. You realize that up until now, people were not able to make direct purchase on certain international websites. And in response, certain companies locally, especially on the African continent, have arisen to domesticate a local solution. That alone is a market space. So when you have the idea, you just simply need to find who would be the person that will be using it, who you'll be serving, and more importantly, who will be paying value for that service. So finding the markets, identifying that specific niche is key also. One of the important things to do, looking at the profiles that were shared with me, I realized you are really good in the blue space, the marine industry. You need to have a financial model. As a business person, regardless of your technical capabilities, finance cuts across all barriers. So if you realize that is not your key strength, you would need to find a solution, find someone that can help you structure a model. What are your costs going to be? What are the resources that you need to dedicate? Having this top-down approach will definitely identify the markets you need and the resources you need, and most importantly, validate if there's a profit afterwards. There is no need going through the process and realize you are not making any positive return. So a financial model is key over here. Again, you can always use the tool I shared with you to find the right finance person. The fifth step in moving from the idea stage is to know the right source of capital. We will come back to this further along the presentation. This has been a challenge for everyone, almost everyone, in trying to arrive at a business. It takes money to get money, as you would often hear people say, but you need to unlock the right amount of capital. When you are starting small, you can use your own personal savings, as you've heard, family, your friends. One key thing that is happening good shape in the continent is to unlock money from angel investors and venture capitalists. So this group of persons have a pool of monies. These are really huge. And like I told you at the start, one firm, Go Freight, has unlocked 28 million US dollars. So regardless of the idea you have and the cost that it takes, there is always a corresponding solution when it comes to financing. I would share the second resource, and this is a document and a report that has been written teaching people who have business interests, trying to make a business out of an idea, how to raise funds. So from this website, this is public information. From this website, you have a detailed and thorough depth on what the entire fundraising process is. How do you engage angel investors? How do you sit at a table with venture capitalists who are willing to extend financing in exchange for a worthwhile idea? What do they look out for? What are the terms available? It is a very thorough document. The scope was based in South Africa. The applications, however, are universal. So please, this is one key resource that I believe would address the question when it comes to capital and financing. One of the key things that you'd also need to do is to start very small. So there's something called an MVP, a minimal viable product. Just to say you are running a test, a phase 1 or a trial of whatever you think you want to get into business with. I will give you an example from my experience at Just from Africa. When we were starting out, we decided to begin with exports. And we didn't just start with exports by shipping out full containers and large number of containers. We had just identified just one person and we asked, would you mind if we did the shipment for you on a direct basis to your final destination, which happened to be between Ghana and the US, as it was a major trade corridor? The answer was yes. So we just shipped 2 pallets of the person's consignment. We realized the person was excited. She paid for the service. In return, we had repeat business, and the word was spreading out. Once that first trial was successful, we knew that yes, people would be willing to pay for the service on the premise of certain advantages. It being a direct shipment, we handling the entire paperwork from start to finish. So that was a minimal viable product for us. It's minimal viable product can mean several things to so many people. But the moment you have one person paying for your service the way you envisioned it, then you are good to go. That would be your MVP. If it's a technological product, once people are able to utilize it from the start, you realize their problems are being solved, then yes, that also becomes a viable product, even before you scale it or go around advertising. So that is one of the key stages in transitioning to a business solution. To run a trial or a phase, apply that and move on. Sometimes it may mean a complete overhaul in what you thought was a good idea or a good solution that you had. And so please welcome adjustments and move on. In JetStream, I'll tell you an example. We have made certain adjustments. When we started, we had certain verticals that we were focused on. We shipped from Ghana to the US, Ghana to the UK. We realized the structure in certain European countries were very difficult. And so we simply said no to certain products that were moving their sea freights. And it actually helped us to establish our minimum shipping volumes. So this is an example of making an adjustment once you've done your MVP. Kindly note that you can always pivot, that is to change from one structure or means to the other at different points in the business growth. So do not see it as a failure. Do not be overburdened. It is part of the life cycle of every business once you're moving from the idea stage and growing it up and scaling onwards. I believe we are together. I would love some feedback in the chat box just to know no one is being left behind. So please drop the comments at any point in time. The third key or the third goal for us today is to look at how we are conducting research as we go about this journey and this process. How do you enter the market? What is competition? And today I would share some wild ones with you. Okay, so about the research and how to enter the market. Always start small. You can always start small. And as I told you, when we were beginning JetStream Africa, we first focused on exports. Exports because it was easier compared to imports, which are scrutinized heavily by the revenue authorities to assess your taxes and duties. Exports were actually encouraged. So it was really one of the key areas that we actually began. And you could also focus on certain verticals based on competence. So you realize Africans export agricultural produce a lot, unlike manufactured items. So once you are able to have dominion on what you think is easy or relatively easy to start small, that is always the way to go. Growth definitely would come along. If you want to enter a market, you also need to consider partnerships. So a recent case study is between South African Airlines and Kenya Airways. They have actually partnered to co-load cargo when it comes to air freight. You can actually make a booking, buy a ticket on South Africa Airways, and actually fly on Kenya because of route optimization. If the big guys are doing it, new entrants should really consider partnership. It's actually one of the ways to penetrate the market. Partnerships on a continent look fearful because you're afraid you'll be cheated out, but one of the things to safeguard you would be to have the right MOUs and well-documented forms of agreements. That way, each party is clear on what the role is and what the obligations are. So do not be scared to go into partnerships. It is one of the key areas, it's one of the vital areas in which you can enter the markets. A typical example is within freight forwarders and customs brokers. So customs brokers are the ones who would relate to the customs official what cargo is being shipped or not. It's most of them are licensed in the sense that you need to have, there are barriers to entry if you want to be a customs agent or a customs broker. With freight forwarding, it's basically moving the cargo. So those who actually touch the physical cargo, put them in the containers or the truck or see to it that it gets to the airports, that one is relatively easier. So if you want to be a customs broker, you can just partner with a licensed broker, have an agreement. I'm going to bring you this number of customers. Let's have a profit share, and that's, you'll be good to go in business. Once you have a signed agreement, you can advertise yourself that, yes, I can do freight forwarding and customs brokerage because you have a partner whose license you are working with. So as of today, one example is that if you want to do this business, you can have a partner, sign an agreement, and you'll be good to go. Once it is a win-win, trust me, people would want to welcome you because you actually bring more business into their establishment, and gradually you'll be able to grow into whatever niche you have carved for yourself.
Hello to everyone. I believe he's probably facing some technical challenge. So let's give him about 2-3 minutes to see if he can join again. All right, thank you. Okay, hello guys. So it seems he's really going facing some, I don't know, some network challenges. So what I would suggest we do, well, we are supposed to have our Q&A session now. And so what I would suggest we do is maybe we can start having the questions and we'll try to discuss them. I'll try to respond to some of them, but I'm just hoping that he's able to join so that he could um, respond perfectly to some of the questions. But in his absence, I think we could take the questions now. And I mean, we can share ideas on the questions. So we can do this and then sum it up with the interactive session. And so if any of you has a question so far on either this session, what Solomon has said so far, or from last week's sessions, either on the blue economy sectors or the sector challenges and opportunities and some of the specific challenges on shipping or fisheries, you can put them forward and then we'll discuss it. We'll try to share our perspectives on the questions that will be put for it. So the floor is open to anyone who has a question or a comment on what has been discussed so far, either on this session and then that of last week. So the floor is now open for questions, submissions, comments, concerns, ideas from anyone. Thank you. If you have a question, you can just use your the button, the reaction button, raise your hand and I'll reach out to you so that you could speak. Questions from anyone? From Genevieve, Jacqueline, Vanessa, Grace, Pius, Elizabeth, George. George from Nigeria. Don't you have any question, any concern? Either from last week's presentations or anything Solomon has shared with us this morning. Wow. Hello, Jacqueline. Okay. I'm going to ask you to unmute so that you could speak, Jacqueline.
Okay. Good morning once again.
Good morning, Jacqueline.
As our panelist was making his submissions, he mentioned that as a starter in the shipping and logistics center, you have to get in touch with relevant stakeholders to guide you through. And sometimes getting to these people isn't really easy. It's a difficult thing to do. So I want to find out how one can really, not to necessarily convince them or try to show off though, but how would you be able to tell them that, okay, you are really worth working with them or you are really interested in the sector for them to collaborate with you or have a helping hand for you?
Okay. Thank you for that question, Jacqueline. I don't know if anyone has a reaction to that. Anyone has an idea what one can do before I say what I know, what I think, before I give my suggestion.
Hi.
Anyone? Hi, Belinda.
Hi everyone. Good morning.
Good
So
morning.
to say something about Jacqueline's question. Now, when you are a startup, most of these large corporations don't really know what you are about, and so that is why we have programs like accelerators, and we have competitions where startups small business owners and young entrepreneurs have the opportunity to pitch their businesses to some of the big guys in the game. And so if you're a young person trying to succeed with your startup, you need to do researches and find out when these accelerators are taking place. I like the point Solomon raised that you need to read, you need to research more. Because the thing is, if you're hiding in your corner, it's going to be quite difficult for a large corporation to locate you. And so you need to put yourself out there. Now, thanks to social media, you can capitalize on LinkedIn. Make sure whatever it is that you are selling, you know what you're about. Because these guys don't have the time. So for you to catch their eyes, you really need to present yourself in that manner. And so if you have a startup that probably are struggling to get the attention of these big guys, you should explore the option of signing up for some of these accelerators and pitch competition. And I believe that's a good start. From there, you can secure collaborations, and out of those collaborations, you're able to secure partnerships. I think Solomon is back, so I will let him continue his presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much for that reaction, Belinda. Just to add, and welcome back, Solomon. We missed you for a while, so we decided to open the floor for some questions on what you've presented so far. And Jacqueline was just asking how they can have access to stakeholders and then present their ideas, their business ideas and solutions to them. So Belinda just shared her thoughts on what could be done. And I was just going to add that, well, in my opinion, I think it's a structural problem, and
Okay.
it's something that at the Gulf of Guinea, we are also interested in how we can tackle this structural problem. And like Belinda rightfully said, sometimes it's about the kind of platforms that are available to bring young people and stakeholders together. An example of that, a practical example of that is the Blue Careers and Business Expo. But beyond that, the truth is that sometimes you have to go the extra mile. That is one truth that is not really out there. But if you really want it, I think you'll have to go the extra mile. You don't have to use all those traditional means like meeting people at meetings and all of that. Sometimes you have to, if I know that I need to speak to somebody at, say, Ghana Port and Harbour Authority, I need to go on LinkedIn and find whoever I know. If I could get in a connect on somebody from GMA, Ghana Maritime Authority, who is on LinkedIn, I have to connect with the person, try and ask few questions, and then maybe proceed to have a visit at GMA and try to speak. Sometimes you need to go the extra mile. To be honest with you, you have to take extra steps to get what you want. If the platforms are not available, you can't just wait. You'd have to connect with so many other people just to get to one person. And so sometimes you have to just go the extra mile, But yes, so that is one of the things company is doing. We are providing so many curated platforms that can bridge the gap between young people and stakeholders, and how we can promote sustainable solutions. And like Belinda rightly said again, it's all about there is an industry, and it's full of operations with their challenges. And so it has to do with research as well, to know what is going on, what the challenge is, and how you can readily provide solution to a challenge, because whatever it is a value chain, and it all goes into making money. And so if you're able to provide a solution that can make the business generate revenue, then it's viable and it's tangible enough to be accepted. So there's the research aspect, and you taking the extra mile to really get to meet the people that you want to speak to. Yeah, but I guess Solomon will speak more on that as well. So Solomon, you're welcome back.
Yes, thank you. I have turned off my video to improve the bandwidth, so kindly bear with me on that.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened, and network just turned off. And thank you, Belinda and Lawrence, for filling the gap. When I joined, the few words I heard from Belinda was super. I'd have loved to hear more. Okay, so to catch up quickly with where I left off, I was on the competitor analysis. And rather than coming into fights with, in quotes, existing players on the same piece of pie, the same market size, what this strategy aims to point out is to differentiate yourself in a way that you have an entire market space solely to yourself, free from competition. And so Jetstream, when we came on board, you realize there are lots of logistics companies. So we say we are a tech logistics company, and we have three main products. So yes, we have the traditional freight forwarding, moving cargo from point A to point B, doing it end-to-end, pickups worldwide, etc. Then we also have a finance product. And this was something that was non-existent in the market. So we say, yes, we are going to give you the financing you need, including your normal pre-financing, including your ocean freight, including your duties, including even the cost of purchasing whatever supply or cargo that is involved. And we are going to do the logistics to de-risk our involvement. And the market responded wholeheartedly. And that has been one of the ways we've been able to grow. So in our niche markets, we just created an entirely new market space for ourselves. I would refer you to, as part of the resources, one of the reading lists, and there you'll be able to appreciate what this is into detail. So that is it with competition. So I don't prefer, as a businessman, coming in with a new entrant and fighting for existing share. There's great value in differentiation, distinguishing yourself or distinguishing one's business value proposition, and having a first mover advantage. That way, the market is all yours. I'll box on to give some comparison to what the blue ocean strategy is, and by extension, the old traditional, which is known as the red ocean. So you realize that when you talk of the market space, the blue ocean is uncontested. It's just like the deep blue sea. So in the blue economy, there are areas or there are places in the deep seas that have not even been discovered by mankind till now. It's that scenario being juxtaposed in the market space to create something new. You'd realize that in a typical traditional situation, you're looking for ways to outwit your competition, to stay ahead of the game, spending money advertising and all sorts of strategies. But you realize because you are alone in this market space, you are able to focus. You don't have any competition. So there's competition is simply irrelevant. So that is my position when it comes to entering the markets and looking at the compositions and looking at the competition space. You realize that you are just having to deal with new demand because you have a new product available. So there's just a wealth of opportunity when you consider the strategy. So spending time to dive into it and seeing how it applicates, how it relates to your idea, out of which you can build a business out of, is one of the key and the biggest areas that you need to spend a lot of time with. It's also helpful when you're dealing with investors or financiers, because when you sit at the table with, they want to know what new thing you're bringing. So imagine you tell them you're the only one in this market space. It gets everyone excited. And that is what makes it easy to close some of the financial challenges that pop up in establishing a new business. So I really hope this is being well appreciated by each of the participants. Thankfully, we have search engines available to us. Google is an example. You can just put in and see list of logistic startups. You have a ton of them in so many markets, in so many, on all the continents. What it affords you to do is to study them and identify their value propositions. In this analysis, you'll be able to identify what is even lacking and what can be made applicable in your market, in your environment. And that is one way that reinforces an idea into a business. So please just spend time, see what people are doing. And most of the information is actually publicly available on the internet. So it's not about going to unlock someone's trade secrets, etc., etc. So these are some that easily pop up. Some of them you realize are simply not in your space. You simply have no interest. Then you just cut them off. You focus, see how you can fine tune, how you can re-strategize, and then you'll be making lots of progress. So these are just what came up initially on a Google search. There are tons and tons of them. That way you are able to convince yourself that yes, what you are doing is truly unique. Great. Let's change gear into the challenges whenever you have a business you're trying to build. You have an idea. It has always been for fundraising. It has always been the finance. How are you going to get money to execute the idea? And on the score that Belinda brought in, accelerators are one of the good ways to start. Angel investors, perfect. Grants available. The bigger picture is the bulk of the money sits with VCs. So even though it may be early for you, having a good idea of what that process entails would really be helpful. Sometimes you don't even need to go and raise money from them. You can know this once you've done your financial analysis, as we saw in the 7 key steps. What does it mean to raise money from them? What are the stakes? What do you give in exchange? What are they looking out for you in terms of having the discussion? When you close a deal, what does it mean? It's always nice to hear in the news companies and business people are raising lots of money, but afterwards, what is it? So that document I shared with you earlier on about fundraising, it's titled A Funder's Guide to Fundraising. It's available publicly. Please grab a copy. You can download online in PDF, and then you have further details into the fundraising aspects, which has always been the #1 challenge for companies and businessmen alike. In wrapping up, I'd want to recommend three books that make my preferred reading lists when it comes to business work, when it comes to establishing a business. The first one I've talked about is the Blue Ocean Strategy, how to differentiate yourself and have the markets all to yourself. If you're able to have even 1 point of this, you'd realize that competition would be irrelevant and your idea would be viable, sustainable for the long term. Then I'll talk of the third one. That's also the lean startup. It just tells you how to set up your operations and get yourself running, how to go about innovation, and just make sure that anything that would help you succeed will all be available. The second one, if you don't like reading, so to say, It's a fun book to read. It's titled The Everything Store. It tells you the journey of Amazon, the businessman Jeff Bezos, how he conceived the idea and his journey through the various stages and steps into what you now see Amazon to be. So Amazon, yes, it's an e-commerce platform. There's also a huge technological division, and the journey through when he quit his job, how he was able to raise money from his family, how he sold his first book when he made his MVP, all through to the giant you see Amazon today. That book is just a fun read, and there are lovely and great business nuggets in there. So you may even want to start with that and dive into the Blue Ocean Strategy and Lean Startup. These are my personal 3 books that I would recommend to the institute. That's on that score. I'll draw the curtain here. And one of the things, my favorite quotes is from David Luke, who says that an African trade revolution is quietly afoot. Ladies and gentlemen, the blue ocean or the blue economy is definitely one of the key actors. Thank you for the presentation. I would hand over next to Lawrence to coordinate the questions in the next session.
Thank you very much, Solomon. Thank you very much for the very insightful presentation. You talked about capital sources and financing, the importance of partnerships, and you also shared your reading list with us, which is very charitable of you. Also on the competitor analysis, and I'm sure our participants have some questions for you. We missed you initially, and so we tried to have an interactive session. So I believe we can now have the Q&A session at this point. And so I'm going to open the floor now for questions from anyone who has any question on what Solomon has presented so far on building a business, partnerships on capital sources. I believe sourcing for capital in this part of the world is quite a Herculean task. And so it's something that is of concern to everybody. And I believe that is one of the reasons why in terms of the maritime sector, developing startups in the maritime sector has been a very big challenge in getting that done. And so thank you very much once again, Solomon, and the floor is now open for questions. If you don't want to use the channel, you can type it in the chat box and then I'll read it out to Solomon. So the floor is now open for questions. Thank you. Maybe Solomon, you can also try to give your suggestion on the earlier question from Jacqueline on how to go about assessing having access to stakeholders in the maritime industry. Maybe you can share a practical example of how Jetstream you were able to assess the port community or the maritime community, trying to get the people that make the final decisions on the table to discuss your business proposition with them.
Sure. So
thank you.
If getting the question right, you want to know how to access partners in the relevant community. Is that yes. Correct?
Partners, okay. Stakeholders, the main stakeholders in that is specific to your business operation, say shipping or transport.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So that is really vital, because if you want to thrive in a business space, you need to be dealing with the right people. So to say, the movers and the shakers. There's always the difficulty in trying to have audience with them. especially when you are really new and you don't have a track record. We've also, in the case of Jetstream, have had that situation. Now, so Jetstream formally started in 2019. So we are 3 years old, and currently on our growth channel, we have a whole division that takes care of partnerships. When we were starting out, we had to start very small. It's that traction that whoever is a key partner would want to see, and based on that historical success or cycles, would want to give you audience. So the very first people that we went with were the people in, so to say, northern Ghana who were doing exports of shea butter and black soaps. We got their exports out. Then when we, in an instance of engaging with the Ghana Export Promotion, we showed to them our records that, hey, these are the things that we've been enabling people export. Then it gets them excited. Out of that, we are able to build on and have several referrals. One of the beautiful things is to always grow with your customer. Out of it are tremendous opportunities. In the very first instance that I can remember, we actually helped one exporter ship, in our case, 28 sacks of baskets. These were the baskets made in the northern parts of Ghana. Our solution was to offer direct service from Ghana to the US in a very timely manner, handling all the paperwork without their involvement. The impact of that single transaction was that they quickly upscaled from 28 sacks to shipping one 20-footer container every 2 months. After a year, it's now 140-footer. And the value or the revenue associated with it is huge. It is mind-blowing. It is equivalent to $500,000. So with this transaction, when you approach anyone, be it the ministries, you want to have idea, you want to have a discussion with them, you want to have a partnership with them, that small transactions or traction that you've been able to gather becomes a testament in itself. So it's always good to broaden your networks, have the conversations, have emails, LinkedIn, attend shows, make your connections, and all of that. But the beautiful thing is to always start small and build traction. It's also applicable in the finance space. One of the things I noticed when we were having engagements with financing partners was we actually started small with an angel investor. And I'll just mention this one out there. I mean, their mantra was to invest with hilarious startup companies. And the name is Hustle Fund, HUSTLEFUND. Their ticket size back then was $25,000. It looks like it is a lot of money, but in the venture space, it's really very small. The whole essence of that money was to help build a dummy platform, just to have a demo. When you say you are building a tracking platform, what does it mean? So we just got some engineers. We were able to show that, okay, this is the dashboard. This is how it looks like. And so with more financing, we can take it up to this level with GPS tracking and blah, 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 blah. And I'm sure when you check this out, our first pre-seed was equal to $3 million US. With the example I shared with you from GoFreight, who raised 28, you realize that is really a drop in the whole ocean. The underlying point is always to start small, and with that, you are able to build gradually to meet or to have audience with any strategic partner. So that would be my feedback to that question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that insightful feedback. Questions from anyone else? Question from anyone?
I have a question.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for this wonderful session. Okay, when you were going through your slides, you mentioned two strategies, the blue strategy and the red strategy. So blue strategy is usually for companies that are coming into the space and they are looking to create solution challenges. So basically, they have little or no competitors. But what I wanted to say, is it possible for a company to run on that for a very long time? Because we know human nature is that even if the company runs on a strategy, immediately people see that this particular business venture you've gone into is now successful, competitions will start cropping up. So I just want to have an idea of how long or that's possible.
Sure, that's very well noted. So definitely every pace setter would have people following suit. I'll give you one example in the fintech space. When a telecommunications giant, MTN, wanted to introduce mobile money services, it was new, it was novel, it was unheard of, right? Then you realize that a couple of other networks also rolled out a similar service. You would agree with me that they've enjoyed the first mover advantage. In a sense, when you look at the size of that market alone, it's overwhelmingly evidence they have the dominance. So the first mover advantage ensures that you are able to solidify yourself as the market leader, regardless of any entrance who comes along. In trying to explain to you what you could get, I kept saying search engines. Many people would use the famous one, Google, to relate to you going on the internet and doing a research. But you'd agree with me that Google isn't only the search engine that is available online. There are several others. Some have strong suits. When you're doing an academic research, there's an engine that is having the greater strength. When you're looking for images or media items, there are some that deliver the best of results. Nevertheless, people will say, oh, Google it, just to do a synonym of doing an internet search. So the blue ocean strategy also comes with the first mover advantage. It's not automatic. You can actually be the first mover and lose out. So when you are distinguishing yourself, you need to ensure that you are capturing the market. Your customers are in such a way that they are sticking with you, you don't lose them, etc. So there are further ways of going about it. And I'm convinced once you cycle through the book, you would be rest assured on how to make all the gains realized. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Solomon.
Hi, Lawrence. Hi, Solomon. So that was a brilliant response. I just wanted to add to your comment. And then I wanted to let Anita know that, and I'm sure Solomon is aware of this, that in the corporate world, there is something we call copyright pride. And the classical example you gave for the mobile money industry is what they call copyright pride. So even the ideas that are patented over a period, at a point, you still have competitors. But like you rightly said, the first mover advantage is what you need to capitalize on. And so if you enter the blue economy sector from the blue ocean strategy, it is up to you to sustain yourself in the industry. Of course, people always hear about you. They would now try to adapt your business model and try to add a little bit of touches just to separate themselves or distinguish themselves in some small way so that at least copyright issues do not come up as well. But like Solomon said, you always have to take advantage of your first move. Being able to penetrate the market faster gives you that competitive edge. Nonetheless, if you are not able to capitalize on that, at the end of the day, you still lose the market. So I just wanted to add this to Solomon's response. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Belinda. Any more questions? Solomon, if you don't mind, I have a question. It's been on my mind since you joined the platform. And so if you don't mind, I just want to, I know that Jetstream is doing so well. I've taken some time to go to your website and try to read more to understand what you do. And it's quite an inspiration to see all that you are doing, all the impacts that you're making in the transport sector. But I also want to know, in the midst of this, all of this, are there any challenges that you are facing? I mean, Jetstream is facing in the industry. Maybe you have some pushbacks from the industry. I mean, the mainstream industry, or competitor challenges, or any still on even on market penetration, or even on finance, any challenge at all that you are facing?
Okay, the answer is yes. I would want to share a page out of one of the resources I recommended.
Okay.
And just give me a second and let me put this up. Okay, so whilst I do that, the answer is yes. In having a business, there is always, okay, good, I found this. Let me just share this with you. Okay, all right, so I hope you can see this page. It's very whitish, but basically what this page communicates is that there are various levels of growth. Okay, the first one you see is on the first column is telling you about the requirements. You have the other column, pre-seed, seed, Series A, and Series B. That is the growth stage of any startup. And you realize that there are various fields when you look at the various roles. To have an early team, the idea, the market need, which we've talked about, the prototype, the business plan, MVP, revenue model, until you get to the very last one, which is structuring for an M&A, a merger and acquisition, when you can say you have finally arrived. So as you progress along this growth plan, okay, transitioning from the early team to the M&A, moving from pre-C to a Series B, there are various stages that you need that you will encounter. So in the life of Jetstream, yes, we currently are at a stage in between the seed and A. And what it means is that you'd have to deal with, like you said, product expansions, new markets, the team, the profits, etc. So when we started, okay, we started only with Ghana. We've had to move into Nigeria, into Egypt. And like I said, also, we are working through partnerships to actually scale up. The other thing you realize is that you need technology actually scales, right? So when you take your social media app on your phone, on your laptop, in any country you find yourself in, you are able to have access to it. If it was a financial product, they actually scale easily because of the infrastructure upon which they are built. So you realize that even, come down to a level, Uber, right? Or the ride-hailing agencies, Bolt, Uber, Yango, and all these, they actually have issues in certain countries. Certain countries have laws which do not seem to favor their operations. And it's the same in every establishment, in Jetstream, in any other startup that is operation-wise. So yes, there are issues that you may need to come up with some certain local solutions, especially when you're going to new markets, into new countries, trying to have the right technology that works, because what happens in Ghana doesn't necessarily mean it will succeed in Nigeria, which is even next door. Talk of Somalia, Mozambique, and all those places. So that day-to-day operation is part of the journey. And like I said, always, you may need to strategize and pivot. So if you need to change your service offering, if you need to change your product, you quickly adapt and do so. It's part of the business environment. Every businessman doesn't have a roller coaster of success. So don't get frustrated when you're trying to make an inroad and there's certain pushbacks or difficulties. So the answer to your question is yes, just we have our daily challenges and daily battles that we are finding solutions to, even as we grow the business to the ultimate, where we can say we are ready for an M&A.
Thank you very much. This question is very important to this program in general, because part of the mentorship program is to have a stage where young people, participants of this session currently think about challenges that the industry faces, that businesses faces, and then think about develop ideas or solutions that can address some of these challenges. And so it's important that you it's great. We are grateful that you've been able to share some of the challenges that you are facing. And as we move along the mentorship program, our participants can begin to think about some of the solutions or some of the ideas that can address some of the challenges. So thank you very much for that response. I don't know if anyone else has any question. We are 5 minutes out of time, and so if we don't have any question at this point, we'll have to end the session for today. Let me thank Solomon once again. Thank you very much for taking time this morning to speak to us about developing business ideas, blue economy business ideas, and sharing what Jetstream has been doing, the impactful work that Jetstream is doing. I'm sure after this, some of the participants will actually visit your website again to have a better understanding of what you do. Perhaps people might come up with ideas around Jetstream, like a competitor, something like that. So thank you very much for sharing your time with us, and thank you to the participants as well. Tomorrow we'll be looking at collaborations and corporate innovations, and I'm sure that some of the things that Solomon has mentioned there will come up again and will be relevant in the session for tomorrow. So I'm sure we've already had the interactive session and we've had a Q&A session, and so we'll wrap up for today and then join again tomorrow. So thank you once again. I believe that the ACOR platform has a communication platform, so we can engage further there. But thank you very much, Solomon. And so I believe you are busy and you can make leave of us now. Thank you very much. Right.
All right. Thank you, Lawrence, and participants. It's been an honor spending time with you.
All right. Bye, Solomon. So yeah, so at this time I think we will have to we were not able to do that last week, but we'll have to, as part of the training and quality purposes for this ECOP training, we'd like to vet the session, particularly the facilitator and the presentation materials. And so I'm going to pull up a poll, and then you take just less than a minute to answer the questions, and then we can close the session for today. So I'm going to pull up the poll now, and you can answer it. So please, I've pulled it up now, so can you respond to the poll? I'll need everyone to please respond to the poll. I think we have just 10 people. We are about 17. So I think the rest of the 7, if you can kindly respond to the poll. Okay, so I'm going to share the second one. It's on the presentation. So please respond to that as well. Thank you. Ten more. We have just 8 people responding to the poll. 9, 11. If we can get about 4 or 5 more, we just have 11 and we are 17. So I'll kindly ask the rest of you to respond to the poll. To inform the facilitators that will participate in the ACOP training going forward. Okay, I think we'll take 12. So thank you all for participating in the poll. Okay, so thank you all once again for joining us this morning for the this session on developing blue businesses from idea to business development. Tomorrow we'll be having Belinda take us to collaborations and corporate innovations. And so it's been good having you all, and hopefully we'll meet tomorrow. So enjoy the rest of your day from any part of the Africa continent. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Bye.